to Data Modeling with Power BI Advanced DAX Calculations. I'm Hassan Al, a senior data engineering consultant at Artifact with over 5 years of experience in data engineering and analytics. I've designed and developed numerous Power BI dashboards and I'll be guiding you through this project. Advanced modeling and DAX can be challenging due to their complex syntax and the need to understand both technical and business requirements. This comprehensive tutorial is designed to help you master data relationships and write sophisticated DAX formulas to create powerful analytic solutions. If you're new to Power BI, I added a link in the reading material to introduce you to the tool. I recommend starting there and then you can follow this guided project as a follow-on. This guided project is crafted for intermediate business and financial analysts who want to take their Power BI skills to the next level and leverage advanced data analytics capabilities. In order to be successful in this project, you will need basic understanding of Power BI fundamentals, familiarity with basic business metrics like sales, profit, and growth, and access to a Windows machine to run Power BI desktop, and a Microsoft account to download the software and save your work. All the materials needed to complete this project will be available under the reading materials. DAX stands for Advanced Analysis Expressions, which is basically a large library of functions and operators that help you build formulas. You can use DAX to create measures and calculated columns with using DAX in Power BI, because we will import data, and after establishing the proper relationships, we will start creating functional measures and go over how to properly format them and document them. Later, we will go into advanced calculations and date calculations before diving into DAX logic and calculating growth metrics. As a financial analyst at Sweet Delights International, a growing cookie manufacturer, you've been tasked with creating a sales performance dashboard. Currently, the finance team relies on multiple Excel files to track basic sales metrics, making it difficult to get quick insights into business performance. Your task is to build a Power BI dashboard using the company's sales database, which contains information about product sales, costs, and dates. You'll learn to connect these tables properly and create key calculations using DAX formulas. Through this project, you'll calculate essential metrics like total sales revenue, profit margins, and analyze growth trends for different cookie product lines. You'll work with sales data to create these measures and gain valuable insight into business performance. By the end of this project, you'll have built a practical dashboard that automatically updates these calculations, saving hours of manual work in Excel and providing clear visibility into Sweet Delight's financial performance. Task 1 is about preparing the data and creating foundational measures using count and sum functions while learning proper formatting and documentation practices. So first, we open Power BI. This is Power BI's interface. And on the main screen, we see that we can start by importing our data. Once again, the data shared by the cookie company is available under the reading material. It's a set of 3 different Excel workbooks that we're going to import to Power BI. So right here, we click on Import Data from Excel, and I navigate to my downloads where I have downloaded the data. I'm going to start by importing the orders, and then I'll move my way down to the others. I will click on Orders and hit the Open button. Once I hit the Open button, this navigator pops up. I will click on the Orders table, and I can see here that my data is properly parsed. I click on the Load Green button. I can either transform the data or load it directly, but for now, I'll just go ahead and load it. On the right-hand side, on the data pane, I can see that my orders table have been successfully imported. Now I want you to pause the video for a minute and import the other 2 tables by yourself. Alright, now I have successfully loaded all these sheets into Power BI, and you should see them here under the data pane on the right-hand side. Before we jump in, I would like to orient you to the data that we are working with. Over on the left-hand side, let's click here on the model view to see our tables, how they are connected together. Here we can see that we have a relationship between the orders and the cookie types and the orders and the customer. It's a one-to-many relationships, and they're linked here by the customer ID, and here they're linked by the cookie type. And also, before starting with our DAX calculations, let's go here on the left-hand side to the table view to go over our data. Here on the right-hand side, I can choose the table, and here I see the cookie types table. As we can see, it's a lookup table, giving me for every cookie type the number of units sold, the revenue, and the cost. Here, the customers table is also a lookup table for the customers, where it gives me additional information about them. And finally, our most important table, the orders table, where we have order information, such as the customer ID and order ID, the cookie type, the units sold per cookie, the date, the revenue, and the cost. Now, as a financial analyst working with Sweet Delights, I'll be interested in the revenue, the cost, and the total number of units sold. So I want to sum up all of the different values under this units sold field. To do this, I'll jump back to the report view and start building my first DAX measure. In order to create our first measure, I'll navigate here to the orders table and right-click on it. And then I will click on New Measure. This here drops me into Measure Tools, and here I have this line where I can enter a formula and I can insert any function. It might remind you a little bit of what it looks like in Microsoft Excel. So right here at the beginning is the name of the measure that I would like to create. So I'm going to remove the measure and write total number of units sold. When you enter the measure name, you could use spaces and make it however long you want to be. Perhaps it's even better to make it very descriptive so you can tell what measure is later on. Now that we have entered the measure name, we have the equal sign, and this is referred to as the operator. So as we go through and set this formula, I'll be calling out what the different syntax is. So we have the name, we have the operator, and now we want to specify a DAX function that we're going to use to sum up these units. So I think it's better to start with the sum function. which is pretty similar to what we have in Excel. In Excel, we have a sum function, and in Power BI, we also have a sum function as well. So here, when I type in sum, I can see that a list drops down of all the functions that start with sum. And if I click on this button to read more, I can see a description of what every function does. Here it says that it adds up all the numbers in a column. This thing that gives me these suggestions and this description is called IntelliSense. Now, one of the big differences between Power BI and Excel is that in Excel, you could sum up individual cells, but in Power BI, when you use the sum function, it's summing up the entire column or all the values that are part of that field. Here, when I type sum, now I need to pass a parameter. For the parameter, I will need to add the units sold from the orders table. So now I'll open the parentheses. So here, as you can see in this dropdown, we have a portion between quotation and a portion between brackets. The first part here of this parameter is the table name, which is here cookie types or customers or orders. And the part between brackets is the field or the column within this table. Now I want to sum all the units, and this is in the orders table. So I will write here orders, and now I can see all the columns within this table. So here I can see the orders units sold. I can click on it, and now I just close my parenthesis. In order to create this measure now, I can click here on the green commit button or hit enter. Congratulations, you just have created your first measure. Now, in order to visualize it, I'll put it in a matrix. So I click here on the matrix under visualizations. I will put total numbers of units sold, and let's segregate this by customers. So I'll drop down the customers table and click on name. Now I can see a matrix showing the customer name next to it, the number of units they ordered. The total number is a little bit over 1 million, and I can see that Acme Byte ordered around 300,000. I can see here next to this number that there's a comma with a decimal place, and obviously we don't sell a share of a cookie. I would like to just go ahead and hide the decimal numbers altogether since we don't sell fractional cookies. So let's edit this measure. So now to edit this measure, I'll go here to total numbers of units sold and just click on it. I can see the measure tools open again, and now under formatting, I can see that the decimal number is set to auto. Let's set this to 0 and hit enter. And now I can see here that there are no decimal numbers. And to get out of this edit view, I can click here, anywhere on my report, and I can see that I don't have decimal numbers anymore. But it was really nice having these commas. It was clearer to see the numbers and understand their value. So I would like you to pause the video for a minute and go ahead and get me back these commas. We'll put total numbers of units. We'll put total numbers. Now, in order to visualize it, I'll put it in a matrix. So I click here on the matrix under visualizations. I will put total numbers of units sold, and let's segregate this by customers. So I'll drop down the customers table and click on name. Now I can see a matrix showing the customer name next to it, the number of units they ordered. The total number is a little bit over 1 million, and I can see that Acme Byte ordered around 300,000. I can see here next to this number that there's a comma with a decimal place, and obviously we don't sell a share of a cookie. I would like to just go ahead and hide the decimal numbers all together since we don't sell fractional cookies. So let's edit this measure. So now to edit this measure, I'll go here to total numbers of units sold and just click on it. I can see the measure tools open again, and now under formatting, I can see that the decimal number is set to auto. Let's set this to 0 and hit enter. And now I can see here that there are no decimal numbers. And to get out of this edit view, I can click here anywhere on my report, and I can see that I don't have decimal numbers anymore. But it was really nice having these commas. It was clearer to see the numbers and understand their value. So I would like you to pause the video for a minute and go ahead and get me back these commas. Did you know how to do it? Let's do it together. So I'll move again to total numbers of units sold. To edit it, I will click on it one time. And here I can see that there's a comma separator icon. I will click on it, and I can see my commas again. Now you might have said to yourself, so why I didn't edit this in the matrix and the visual. So one really neat thing about editing the formatting for the measure itself is that whenever I create a new visual, the formatting will hold. And even if I delete this matrix and create a new one, I will still have the same formatting because it's safe to the measure, not to the visual. Now, in order to delete this visual, I can just go ahead and click on these three buttons and hit this delete from model button. But let's not do that. I want to add a comment to my visual. And a comment, briefly said, is a piece of text that you add to your measure that doesn't affect the calculation whatsoever. It just indicates to whoever wants to check your report someday, what did you do here? It's usually used for complex measures, but let's add now a comment for this simple measure. So I click here and press the shift button and hold and hit enter. This will put me on a new line. And now to enter my comment, I will put forward slash twice, and I can write whatever I want. So I will write here, this is all the cookies sold. And that's it. I just created my comment. I can comment by hitting on this green icon. So I click here and press the shift button and hold and hit enter. This will put me on a new line. And now to enter my comment, I will put forward slash twice, and I can write whatever I want. So I will write here, this is all the cookies sold. And that's it. I just created my comment. I can comment by hitting on this green icon. And as you can see, the calculation wasn't affected whatsoever. And that was it for task one. During this task, we imported our data. We took a look at it, at the relationships, at the different columns, and then we created our first DAX measure. We learned how to edit this measure, how to delete it, and even how to add comments to it, and how to format it properly. In the next task, we're going to take a look at more advanced calculations using DAX. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Hello and welcome back to Task 2 in our guided project, where we're working as a financial analyst for Sweet Delights. We previously modeled our data and created our first DAX measure. During this task, we're going to create a calculated column for profit analysis and understand how iterative functions enhance your calculations. So far, we created a pretty simple measure. Let's get a little bit more complicated and use some operators. We're going to calculate the profit for our cookie company. Over on the left-hand side, once again, let's go to the data view. Within the data view, within the orders table, we can see that we have two columns indicating the revenue and the cost. So to give you a little bit of background of what we're going to do, we'll sum up all the revenue from this column and all the cost from this column. And once we aggregate the revenue and we aggregate the cost, we'll take those two aggregates and we'll subtract them from each other. So let's use measures to do this. Let's go back to our report view and then navigate to the orders table under the data pane. Right click and click on new measure. As agreed, we want to calculate the total profit. So I'm going to name this total profit. And after the equals operator, I want to use the sum function to sum the revenue. Since I know the revenue is in the orders table, I'll open my parentheses and write orders and then scroll down to the revenue and click on it. Now I close my parentheses, and now I can use an operator, which is the subtraction operator. So once again, I need to sum the revenue from the cost. So I want you to pause the video and write me the function that sums the cost in order to put it in the subtraction. Great, I hope you did it well. So in order to get the cost, I'm gonna hit space and then write sum again, find the orders table, and find the cost column. I'll hit enter and then close my parentheses. This all looks good, so I'll press enter. Right here I can see that my new measure was created, the total profit. Let's click on this checkbox to visualize it. And let's transform this visual to a card. Now I can see that the total profit of this very profitable company is $2.72 million. Now you can go ahead and pause this video and format this measure as you see it fit. Okay, great. Now let's show you another way where we can do this as well. Let's go back again to the table view or the data view. So here we see the revenue and the cost, and instead of adding a new measure, I can create a new column. In order to do this, I'll go here to the table tools instead of the measure tools, and I can click here on new column. Creating columns is very similar to creating measures. So here I just rename the column title to profit, and after the equals operator, I will put revenue, and here Power BI automatically knew that I'm going to use this table, so it put the table name, which is orders, and then space, and then cost, and here it is. Now you can notice here that I didn't use the sum function, and the reason is I'm creating a column. So Power BI will know that I'm going to work on a row by row basis, and will get the revenue for every row and the cost for every row to give me the profit. In order to submit this, I will click on this green commit button, and here it is. Now I have the profit column showing the profit for every order. I can also format this column as I wish using the formatting tab here. Building measures, so far we've been working with aggregated functions. So what does that mean? With all the functions that we've been running, it has been looking at the entire column here. But if you want to run some calculations on a row by row basis, this is where it gets tricky. This is where we use now iterator functions. Now as a financial analyst, I would like to see my profit by cookie type, to see which cookie is more profitable, and then I'll present this in a table. So I'll go ahead back to the table view and move over to the cookies type on the right hand side. And I can see that I have revenue per cookie and cost per cookie. Okay, so now I want to calculate total profit. What we've been doing so far is sum all the cost and sum all the revenue and then multiply it by the sum of the units sold. But that's not going to work here because I have the results on a row by row basis. So in order to know the profit, I need to calculate the profit per cookie and then multiply it by the number of these cookies sold. So now we understand that we need to go row by row to calculate the profit. Let's jump back to the report view and see how we can create this. To create this measure, let's go to the cookie types table, right click and click on new measure, which opens up the measure tools. Now let's type in my measure name, which is profit using cookies table, and I will hit space and then put the equals operator. And now instead of typing sum, let's add an x at the end. And this is now an iterator function. As you can see, it returns the sum of an expression evaluated for each row in a table. And now you have all the iterator functions available when you add x to them. So you could use sum x, count x, min x, and you'll see if you throw in an x behind it that it will go row by row. So now in order to use this sum x function, I'll open the parentheses. And if I look at the tooltip here on the top, I can see that it returns the sum, and I can see that it's used by giving the table name and then comma and then the expression. So I'm going to put here cookie types, I'm going to put my comma, and now since I'm using the cookie types table, I'm going to write the table name to reference the columns, and I'm going to use the unit sold column and multiply it by the profit, which is basically the revenue per cookie minus the cost per cookie. And then I close in my parentheses for the subtraction, and then I close it for the whole function, and then I'll hit enter to commit this measure. Now that the measure is created here, let's visualize it. I'm going to put it in a card, so I click on card and then click here on this checkbox, and we can see that it's also 2.72, verifying that also the iterative function gave me the same result. Now let's remove this since we don't need it. And that's it for this task. We went through multiple ways of creating and calculating new fields, either by putting them as column or by creating new measures. Close it for the whole function. It comes down of how you would like. Hello and welcome back. So till now we went over how to model the data and how to use aggregate functions and iterative functions to create new measures and new columns. Now it's time to play around with date and time functions and see how we can utilize them to uncover new insights. As a financial analyst, it's crucial to know our sales distribution by date. Which days do we sell more and which days do we sell less, to know how much to manage inventory and production accordingly. In order to do this, we're going to introduce time and date functions. So we've introduced iterator functions, aggregator functions, now it's time and date functions. In general, you have access to all the time and date functions you would find in Microsoft Excel. Let me go again to the table view and open the orders table. Here we can see that we have a date column showing the date of the order. So we want to know how many cookies do we sell on every day of the week. Here we have the date column showing the date of the order. So do we sell more cookies on Monday, on a Wednesday, or a Friday? Or do we sell more cookies on the weekend, let's say a Saturday and a Sunday? I could use date functions to help me answer these questions. Within the order table, I'm going to add a new column. So as we agreed before, under the table tools, we click on new column. And here we see Power BI created a new column next to our profit column. Let's specify a title to it, and I'm going to name it day of the week. And then I'll insert the equals operator, and I want to access the date functions. So let's write day. And once again here, you can see that you have all the same types of functions that you would find in Microsoft Excel. Here, for example, when I typed in day, you can see we have today, we have weekday, and since I want to know the day of the week, I will write weekday. And here we can see that IntelliSense already gave me this function. If I click here on the arrow, I can see that it returns a number from 1 to 7, identifying the day of the week of a date. So I'm going to open my parentheses. And as we can see here in the tooltip, we first specify the date and then the return type. So first I need to specify the table and then the column. So in order to specify the table, as we agreed in the previous tasks, I open a quotation, I write orders, I close my quotations, and to set the columns, I can open the bracket and write date and then close my brackets. Now let's put a comma to put the second part of the function, or what we call the second parameter. And I can see that I have 3 options, 1, 2, or 3. One says that 1 is Sunday and 7 is Saturday. For 2, Monday is 1 and Sunday is 7. And for 3, Monday is 0 and Sunday is 6. I like 2 more. I like to start my week on a Monday, so I'll put 2 and then close my parentheses. Now let's hit the enter button. And we can see our column being created. And now I have a new column with the number representing the day of the week, which looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and go back to the report view to visualize this new column. In order to see the results, let's use a bar chart. And this is the best visual to choose because we're comparing a small number of categories. So I'm going to click here. And for the x-axis, I'm going to put the day of the week. So I'll navigate to the orders table and find here the day of the week. And I can see that this is a calculated column. I can drag it here to the x-axis. And under the y-axis, I will put order ID. And I can see that Power BI by default counted the order IDs. Sometimes it's sum. In order to fix this, you click here on the arrow and you change the calculation method from sum to count. Now let's go to our visualization. Let's expand it a little bit. And we can see that we do not have a lot of orders on Monday, but things pick up quickly on Tuesday. They start slowing down Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday, boom, a lot of orders. So it's a good way to have some insights about our sales patterns. This helps us control production and inventory a little bit better. We know that usually we expect large shipments on Tuesday, and we were able to do this using DAX by creating a new column and visualizing it through Power BI. And that's it for this task. Now you can use time and date functions, you know how to use aggregate functions, iterator functions, and you know how to create new measures and new columns. Let's go ahead and try all of these skills in the next optional yet very important practice task. Hello and welcome to our first practice task. During the previous tasks, we imported the data and used aggregator and iterator functions and date and time functions to create new columns and new measures. During this task, we're going to practice those skills. Before we go over the instructions, I want you to know that this task is completely optional, but completing it sharpens your skills and prepares you even further to the job market. For this activity, you'll be assisting Bluebill, a beverage company, get a grasp about their financial data. The data is available under an Excel file called practice under the reading material. And your task is to import the data and create the appropriate calculations to find the profit and add it in a new measure, and then to count the number of units ordered using a DAX function and also add it in a new measure, and then show these two values in cards, as well as drawing a bar graph showing the distribution of sales across the different days of the week, having the week start on Sunday. Keep in mind that in order to aggregate values over a column, we use aggregate functions and we add an X at the end to use iterator functions for row by row calculations. Now let's pause the video for 5 to 10 minutes and try to do this on your own. Alright, I hope this was easy. Let's start to do it together. We first have to import our data, so we navigate here to import data from Excel and click on it. We then choose practice file and hit the open button. We click on this checkbox and hit load to load our data. Now on the right hand side, under the data pane, I can see all of my different columns. Let's now go over to the table view to take a closer look at our data. As we can see here, we have the order ID, we have the date, we have the units, the unit price and cost, and the revenue per order in addition to the cost per order. Let's now go ahead to our report to start building our measures. The first measure we want to build is the profit. And in order to do this, I need to click on my table and then click on new measure here under table tools. I will name this measure total profit, and it will be the sum of the revenue column minus the sum of the cost column. I now close the parentheses and hit enter to create this measure. And as we can see here, our measure is created. Now to create the second measure, we can right click on this table and click on new measure. So the measure is the total number of units sold, so I will name it as such. I will put the equal operator and sum the number of units here under my table. I will now close the parentheses and hit enter. Now let's add a new measure just for fun. So we click on new measure and I want to see the total number of orders. So I'm going to use the count function. So total number of orders, and we use count, and we put here the order ID. Now that we have these three measures, let's put them into cards. So I will click here to create a card, and I will put in the first one the total profit. I will then create a new card and put in it the total number of units sold, and a third card showing the total number of orders. Amazing. Now we still need to visualize the distribution of orders over the day of the week. And and I will put in of orders. And to do this, I will navigate cards. So I will click here to create a card. Now that we have these three order ID. Now that we have these three measures, let's put them into cards. So I will click here to create a card, and I will put in the first one the total profit. I will then create a new card and put in it the total number of units sold, and a third card showing the total number of orders. Amazing. Now we still need to visualize the distribution of orders over the day of the week. And to do this, I will navigate to the table view again. So we'll go ahead and navigate to new column, and we're gonna name this column day of the week. I'll put the equal sign and use the weekday function. I will give it the date column. So I start by putting the table name, which is sheet 1, and specify the date column. I now put a comma, and then I will put 1 to specify that the week should start on Sunday, and I will close the parentheses and hit enter. And here it is. Now I have a new column showing the day of the week. Let's go back to our report view to visualize this. I will go ahead and choose a bar graph, and then put in the x-axis the newly calculated day of the week, and on the y-axis I will put the order ID. And here I can see the distribution of orders across days of the week. I can sense that it's pretty uniform. And you can go ahead and pause the video and do the necessary changes that you see fit, either in the formatting of the measures or in the formatting of the visuals. And that would be it for our Blue Bull client, where we created a couple of calculations to help them understand their transactions easier using Power BI DAX functions. Now let's resume our work with Sweet Delights, where we will dive deeper into logical functions in our following task. Stay tuned. Welcome back to our guided project. Now, as a financial analyst working at Sweet Delights, you have under your belt the necessary tools to perform calculations, create new measures and columns, and manipulate date and time. Now, let's shift gears and see how you can use some logical functions. So these are things like finding different values and using an if statement and a find statement to create a new measure or a new column. So once again, let's go to the table view on the left-hand side. So looking again at the orders table, I want to find all the products that contain chocolate in them. So here we can see the product being chocolate chip. If I scroll a little bit down, I can see fortune cookies, oatmeal raisin cookies, and if I click on the arrow here, I can see all the type of cookies. So we have sugar, white chocolate, macadamia nut, which also contains chocolate, snickerdoodle, which doesn't have chocolate. So as we agreed, we want to know how many chocolate are we using, how many cookie type chocolates are we selling. So I want to ask you to pause the video and try to create a new column and do this on your own. And remember, all the functions that are used in Power BI, or most of the functions, are the same in Excel. Okay, so we know that we have to go to table tools. So I click on table tools and I will create a new column. For the new column name, I'm going to call it has chocolate. So has chocolate. I'll type it in, I'll insert the equals operator, and I'll type the find function. Looking at what IntelliSense tells me, I can see that the find functions return the starting position of one text string within another text string. And it is case sensitive. Case sensitive means that it differentiates between capital letter and small letter. And basically what find does is that it tells you where you can find the text that you give it within the text column. So let's try it out. I'm going to open my parentheses and I can see that it takes 4 parameters. The first parameter is the text that you want to find. The second parameter is where you want to find it. The third one is the start position, so where to start looking within the string. Is it in the first character, second character, or skip the first 5, for example? And finally, we have the not found value, which is the value that you put if you don't find what you're looking for. So right now I'm looking for chocolate. I'm going to open quotations and write chocolate. And I'm going to close these quotations. I'm going to put a comma, and I want to tell Power BI to look within the cookie type column. So I will put one quotation, specify the orders table, and here I can see the cookie type column. I'll hit enter. So now I have to specify the start position, which is where to start looking within my cell. I want to start in the first character, so I'll choose 1. You can specify 5. For example, if you choose 5, it skips the first 4 characters. If you choose 10, it skips the first 9 characters. I don't want to skip any characters. Let's start at the first character to look for my chocolate. So I'll put 1. And finally, if it doesn't find chocolate, I want it to return 0. Now let's close this parentheses and hit enter to see our column being populated. And here it is. Now I can see that my column has been populated. For the chocolate chip cookies, I can see 1, meaning that it has found chocolate in the beginning. If I scroll a little bit down, I can see that for fortune cookies, there's 0 because this is my default value or my not found value. If I scroll a little bit down, I can see here 7, meaning that it found the chocolate word at the 7th character for white chocolate macadamia, and also I can see here the one for chocolate chip cookies. And that's interesting. Now we know that for any value that is greater than 0, it has chocolate in it. So next I'm going to show you how we can use an if statement to return back yes if it has chocolate or no if it doesn't have chocolate. Up and above, let's build our formula. Let's click back on this to edit it. I'm going to keep this has chocolate column, but I'm going to add the if statement to it. So I would like you to pause the video and actually try this on your own. See if you can figure it out. Now let's try together. Let's go to the beginning of this DAX formula and write if. And you can see here that the if function, similar to Excel, returns true or false if the condition is met or not. Let's open the parentheses to see how we build it. And here you can see that you put the logical test, and then you put what you want to see if the result is true, and you want to see if the result is false. So the logical test would be here that the output of this find is greater than 0. And if it is true, it's greater than 0, then it has chocolate. So I want the output to be a string saying yes. So I open the double quotations and put yes. And if it says no, it will return false. So I will put my comma and put no. Now let's close this parenthesis and hit enter to see if our if statement worked or not. And amazing, we used if and find together to build this new column. We can see here that the chocolate chip, yes, it has chocolate, and the fortune cookies, no, it doesn't. Amazing. Now let's go back to our report view to visualize this. I'll click on report view, and let's put this in a pie chart since we have only 2 values. Once I have my pie chart created, I'll go here under has chocolate. It's a calculated column, and I will put it here in the legend and in the values, and I can see my pie chart populated. Let's put it right here and resize it a little bit. And you can go ahead and pause the video and try to edit this report how you see it fit by changing the colors or changing the formatting of the visuals. And that's it for task 4. During this task, we delved into logical functions and we saw an if statement at work, which is a very powerful statement that you could use. For my chocolate, so I'll put 1 and enter. So I'll for my chocolate and hit enter to see our column being We used if here, how you see it work, which is a very powerful. We'll see how we can use DAX to see the growth of our company. When analyzing a company's performance, growth is one of the most critical metrics financial analysts examine. This involves looking at two comparisons: how the company's growth rates stack up against their competitors in the market, and how their current growth compares to their own historical performance. To measure this effectively, analysts typically calculate three primary growth metrics: year-over-year growth, which compares to current performance to the same period in the previous year, offering a medium-term view, which is practical for businesses with quarterly cycles or seasonal patterns, and month-over-month growth, which tracks sequential changes between consecutive months. These calculations help analysts identify both long-term growth trends and short-term momentum or slowdowns in business performance. During this task, we're going to see how we can visualize these metrics using Power BI. So back to our report view. So far, in order to create a new calculation, we right-click on the table and create a new measure, or we go ahead and create a new column in the data view. But what if I told you there's a far simpler way to do this? Let's first go ahead and select our table, which is here the orders table, and go to the top tab. Under calculations, we can see quick measure. I'll click on it, which opens up the quick measure tab. I can see that there's a drop down where I can select a calculation to create a measure. Let's open up this drop down, and I can see here all of the different pre-created measures or pre-created DAX formulas that Power BI offers. It has some averages, it has some addition and subtraction. So the sum and count that we created previously, we would have done them right over here in the quick measures. But it was a good exercise for us to understand how DAX works and how the measures work. For me, I want to calculate the month-over-month change. So under time intelligence, I find month-over-month change and I choose it. And here I can see that three options appear: the base value, the date, and the number of period. Here the base value is the value on which I want to calculate change. And basically what companies do here is that they calculate over the numbers of units sold. They don't choose revenue, they don't choose profit, because revenue and profit can be affected by the currency changes, can be affected by inflation. So the best approach is to go with the units sold. So I will click on add data and navigate to my orders table. And here I can choose the units sold. For the date, it's pretty straightforward. I just choose the date column of the orders. And here the number of periods specify the number of jumps between every month. So I can calculate it a month over month change for 2 months. But for me, I'm going to keep it 1 to get the value for every month. And I will hit here now the add button to see my quick measure. And as you can see here, Power BI went ahead and generated this DAX formula for me. It's far more complicated than what we are used to, but don't have to worry about it. Power BI does it for you. It's very good. If you read it, you can see that it uses the if function. We can see that it created some variables. It used the sum function. It also used time and date functions, in addition to some error handling. We can now see it here under the orders table also as a new measure. Let's go ahead and visualize this in a matrix. So I will click on matrix and click on units sold. And under date, I will choose here the month. And here it is. Let's drag this table and put it under the pie chart and resize it a little bit. And remember, you can always at any moment pause the video and edit this report as you see it fit. So now we can see our data in 2020 and 2019. We can see that the month-over-month change for August is minus 12%. For October, it's 89%, meaning that since last October till October 2019, we have an 89 increase in number of units sold. We can see a dip in November. We can see some low numbers here in May, but it picks up 99% in June. And that's it. Now we have used quick measures to write a very tough and very hard formula to show me the monthly growth of a company. Now I would like you to pause the video and try to do this on your own for quarterly growth and for year-to-year growth. And that would be it for the instructional tasks. During this project, we first imported the data and modeled it properly. We then dived into DAX formulas and created basic formulas using aggregate functions. We also introduced iterator functions and we created new columns before also diving into date and time functions. We then concluded everything by utilizing the logic functions such as find and if, and finally calculated growth metrics using quick measures, which is a feature in Power BI to generate DAX formulas. Thank you for following along to build this amazing financial dashboard for sweet delights. Please do not forget to complete the quiz at the end of the project to receive your certificate and also fill out the survey. And finally, you can stay tuned for our final task, where we will summarize all the learnings into one task. I can see in 2024 the progress for quarter 2, quarter 3 and quarter 4. Of course, there is no quarter 1 progress because quarter 2 is based on it and you don't have data previous to Q1 2024. And that's it. Congratulations on completing this guided project. We can now see it here under the orders table also as a new measure. Let's go ahead and visualize this in a matrix. So I will click on matrix and click on units sold, and under date I will choose here the month, and here it is. Let's drag this table and put it under the pie chart. also as a new measure. Let's go ahead and visualize the function. It also uses time and date functions in addition to some error handling. We can now see it here under the orders table also as a new measure. Let's go ahead and visualize this in a matrix. So I date functions. In addition to some error, you can see that it uses the f function. We can see that it created some variables. It used the sum function, months, short-term, momentum, or slowdowns. And let's go ahead and select our table, which is here the orders table, and go to the top tab. Under calculations, we can see quick measure. I'll click on it, which opens up the quick measure tab. I can see that there's a drop down where I can select a calculation and here it is. Let's click on matrix. In addition to some error handling, we can now see it here under the orders table also as a new measure. Let's go ahead and visualize this in a matrix. So I will click on matrix and click on units sold as you see it fit. 12% for October, it's 89% in 2020 and 2019, and edit this report as you see it fit and resize it a little bit. And remember, you can always at any moment pause the video and edit this report as you see it fit. So now we can see our data in 2020 and 2019. We can see that the month-over-month change for August is minus 12%. For October, it's 89%, meaning that since last October till October 2019, we have an 89 increase in number of units sold. We can see a dip in November. We can see some low numbers here in May, but it picks up 99% in June. And that's it. Now we have used quick measures to write a very tough and very hard formula to show me the monthly growth of a company. Now I would like you to pause the video and try to do this on your own for quarterly growth and for year-to-year growth. And that would be it for the instructional tasks. During this project, we first imported the data and modeled it properly. We then dived into DAX formulas and created basic formulas using aggregate functions. We also introduced iterator functions and we created new columns before also diving into date and time functions. We then concluded everything by utilizing the logic functions such as find and if, and finally calculated growth metrics using quick measures, which is a feature in Power BI to generate DAX formulas. Thank you for following along to build this amazing financial dashboard for Sweet Delights. Please do not forget to complete the quiz at the end of the project to receive your certificate and also fill out the survey. And finally, hello and welcome back. I'm glad you made it this far. In the previous task, we learned how to use quick measures to build new measures, and we built month-over-month measures to see the growth of the company sales over time. Now, in our final challenge, we want to make sure that you are ready to handle real-life projects, and that you can build DAX measures to create new columns and enhance your understanding of the data and generated insights. I first need you to know that this activity is optional and ungraded. The goal is for you to apply the knowledge and skills learned within this guided project to boost your confidence. Let's see if you can handle this on your own. In this task, you're a financial analyst for SugarDo, and you need to build them a dashboard based on their sales data. You are provided with 3 sheets, one for the cake types, one for the customers, and one for the orders. We need to import the data and create measures to get total sales and order count. Additionally, you need to see their sales over the days of the week. In addition, we need to create a column to see if these cakes contain chocolate or not, in order to help them plan how much to buy chocolate. Finally, the startup needs a quarter-over-quarter growth in order to understand if they are getting successful or not. Do not forget to take a good look at the data before proceeding, and that you can use quick measures to create any type of DAX functions. Now pause the video for 5 to 10 minutes and try to do this on your own. Welcome back. Let's try to do it together. Let's first start by importing our data from Excel. I'm going to start by importing the cake types table. In order to load it, we click on this checkbox and hit load. Now you can do the same for the rest of the tables on your own. Now that we loaded our data, let's go to the table view to take a look at that. We have our cake types table with red velvet, chocolate fudge, and vanilla bean. We have our customers table, and finally our most important table, the orders table. Here we have the date, the cake type ID, the customer ID, the units, the revenue, and the cost. Let's now move to the report view to start building our measures. We first need to calculate profit, so I click on the orders table and hit the new measure button. Total profit will be here the sum of revenue minus the sum of cost, and hit enter. Now to calculate the total number of orders, I'm going to click on new measure and name it total number of orders and use the count function to count the orders ID. Now let's visualize these two in cards. So I will put my first card and insert the total number of orders, and the second card and insert the total profit, which is 11K. Now let's add a new column to indicate the day of the week on which these orders occurred. So I'll go to the table view and under table tools, click on new column. Let's call it day of the week, and it will take the weekday function, and we're going to use the date under the orders table. So I write orders and navigate to date and hit enter. And let's have the week start on Monday by choosing the parameter 2. Now we can see the column being populated. Let's build the second column that will show me if my cakes contain chocolate. So I'm going to go to the cake types table and click on new column. I will name it has chocolate, and for this I will use a combination of the if and the find function. Let's start with the find. I will give it first the keyword, which is chocolate, and remember this is case sensitive, and then I will give it the location where to look for in the cake types table under cake name, and it should start at 1 and give me 0 if it doesn't find anything. Let's hit enter. Now we see here that there is 1 next to chocolate fudge. Let's add an if statement to give me yes or no. So if greater than 0, then yes, else no. Very straightforward. Let's close here the parentheses and remember the comma between the parameters and hit enter. Now that I have these 2 columns created, let's go ahead and put them in our report. So I'm going to add here a bar chart to show the distribution by day of the week of the orders. Let's start by creating a bar chart to show the distribution of orders by day of the week. So in the x-axis, I'll put the day of the week calculated column, and here I will put the order ID. Let's make it a little bit bigger and position it here. Now let's calculate the quarter-over-quarter growth. To do this, we can either write the complicated DAX function or use quick measures. To do this, I click on the orders table and hit quick measure. I will navigate here to find the quarter-over-quarter change. The base value will be the units sold, and the date will be here my date under orders. And I will hit the green add button. Now that the DAX formula is generated, let's visualize this. So I will close this and choose a matrix and put in it the units and also put the date. Now expanding this matrix, I can see in 2024 the progress for quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. Of course, there is no quarter 1 progress because quarter 2 is based on it and you don't have data previous to Q1 2024. And that's it. Congratulations on completing this guided project about data modeling with Power BI, advanced DAX calculations. In this project, we first imported the data and then created measures using iterators and aggregator functions and logical and date and time functions. We finally created a new DAX measure using quick measures to calculate growth metrics to see monthly, quarterly, and yearly growth and visualize them in our report. Please do not forget to fill the survey. Remember to continue testing your knowledge about the material covered in this project by completing the final graded quiz. Thank you for spending this time with me today, and I hope you enjoyed this project. I'm Hassan Roul, and it has been a pleasure guiding you. Hello and welcome back. I'm glad you made it this far. Now to calculate the orders and the second card and insert. So I will put my first card, the orders ID. Now let's visualize these two. Here it should put the location where to look for and the cake type table under cake name. enter the of orders by day of the week, so in the x-axis I'll put the day of the week calculated column, and here I will put the order ID. Let's make it a little bit bigger and position it here. Now let's get order stable units sold, and the date will be here, my date under orders, and I will hit the green add button. The use quick measures. To do this, I click on the orders table and hit quick measure. I will navigate here to find the quarter over quarter change. The base value will be the units sold, and the date will be here, my date under orders, and I will hit the green add button. The units sold, and the date will be here, my date under orders, and I will hit the green add button. Now that the DAX formula is generated, let's visualize this. It will be the units sold, and hit quick measure. I will navigate here to find the quarter over quarter change. The base value will be the units sold, and the date will be here, my date under orders, and I will hit the green add button. Now that the DAX formula is generated, let's visualize this. So I will close this. and choose a matrix and put in it the units and also put the date. Now expanding this matrix, I can see in 2024 the progress. So I building on measures types table. In order to load it, we click on this checkbox. No. Let's start. Quick measure. Now this matrix I can see in 2024 is to Q1 2024. And that's it. Progress because this matrix I can see in 2024 the date. Now expanding this matrix, I can see in 2024 the date. Now expanding. To do this, I click on the orders table and hit quick measure. I will navigate here to find the quarter over quarter change. The base value will be the units sold, and the date will be here, my date under orders. And I will hit the green add button. Now that the DAX formula is generated, let's visualize this. So I will close this and choose a matrix and put in it the units and also put the date. Now expanding this matrix. I can see in 2024 the progress for quarter 2, quarter 3 and quarter 4. Of course, there is no quarter 1 progress because quarter 2 is based on it and you don't have data previous to Q1 2024. And that's it. Congratulations on completing this guided project.